Hi friends, it's Deanna Williston from Our Blooming Catholic Life, and I'm coming to you today with a little bit different book. If you're a fan of the channel, you know I've tried to film this several times. My microphones, both my lavalier mics died, as well as my auxiliary light that I have on this side of the room. It's kind of creepy because this is a book on Catholic Handbook of Deliverance Prayers. It is by the Office of Exorcism from the Diocese of Manilla in the Philippines. It is the revised edition with 12 new prayers. It is by Father Jose Francisco C. Syquia, and he is the director of the Archdiocese of Manilla Office of Exorcism. It is published by St. Paul's. Where did I get this book? I actually got this book from a Women of Grace, Benedicta Women's Leadership Institute Enrichment Seminar. It was held at Malvern this summer. I'm just getting to the book because it's a lot. And it's a weighty topic and you want to handle it correctly. And so I kept putting it off, but it's information that you really need. And so we need to get into it. What does it say on the back? This Catholic handbook includes the most pertinent information and generally used prayers in the ministry of deliverance. So if you're in deliverance ministry, this could be useful for you. But even for the average Catholic, I think just to learn about, this is a great book. Rules for deliverance of persons, deliverance session prayers, rules for deliverance of places and objects, prayers for places and objects, angel prayers, Marian prayers, spiritual warfare prayers, ancient exorcism prayers, blessing of sacramentals. So again, the disclaimer is here. If you are in deliverance ministry and you've had that training, this book could be super duper useful to you. Don't go thinking that the average person on the street can pick this up and start performing exorcisms. That is highly dangerous. Father really got that into our minds. But this is more, for me, it's an awareness book, and that there are some simple prayers that the average lay person can do. You don't have to train to do exorcisms. There's some basic things that you can do first, and the book kind of guides us through that. So let me tell you a little bit more about Father Syquia. He is the head of the Commission on Extraordinary Phenomenon for the Archdiocese of Manilla. He's the director of the Archdiocese of Manilla Office of Exorcism, an exorcist in Manilla for 10 years, and a member of the International Association of Exorcists based in Rome. Who knew these things even existed, friends? He completed the Vatican course on exorcism and deliverance at the Regina Apostolorum Pontifical University. He is the author of the best-selling book, Exorcism, Encounters with the Paranormal and the Occult, published by Shepherd's Voice Publications, Exorcist: A Spiritual Journey, and Exorcist Spiritual Battle Lines, the first and second of the 3 volumes published by St. Paul's. He is also a full-time formator, spiritual director, and professor of spirituality and psychology at the San Carlos Major Seminary. Whew. He is a busy man. I mean, we definitely got that from him. He had just such a wealth of knowledge. If you can ever hear him speak, you're going to want to do it. So if you did not attend the Benedicta, you know, as a member of Women of Grace Exclusive, that's like their membership. It's hard to describe. It's kind of like their Patreon. Okay, so if you join Women of Grace Exclusive, it's really hardly anything. You get access to all their videos that they have archived on their website, which includes many Benedicta leadership seminars, retreats, etc. Lots of talks are on there. Now, you don't get the full benefit of being there, being in the small groups, hearing him speak, where you can interact with him and ask him questions, corner him in the hallway with your questions, because that's what happens to exorcists. It really lets you know how important a subject is, because he almost had to rush from the seminar room back to his room because everybody had thousands of questions for him, and a lot of them are very personal or maybe too scary to be shared. And also, good to note, any exorcist is tied to the bishop. The bishop is the exorcist for his diocese, but he can basically deputize people to carry out this office for him. That's the easiest way of explaining it, perhaps. But it's still through him. And so he has to give you permission to do it, as well as you have to do it within his jurisdiction. So was he performing exorcisms in Pennsylvania? No, he's from the Philippines. He's from Manila. He can only do them in Manila. But he could give people some advice, as well as go through books like these. It is a nice little book. it's kind of one of those ones that's between hard and soft cover. I know it's a hard cover, but it's got that velvety soft cover on it. It does have a nice ribbon to mark your favorite prayers. Starts out pretty simple. Title page. Catholic Handbook of Deliverance Prayers. It's everything I just told you. You notice the symbol. I do wonder kind of if St. Paul's isn't related to the Pauline Press and Media at all. Books and Media at all. I'm not sure. But it is a similar logo. Okay. The Nihil Obstat is by the Reverend Father Rufino S. Sescon Jr., Chancellor, in 2014. The Imprimatur is by Luis Antonio C. Cardinal Tagle, D.D., Archbishop of Manila, again in 2014. Published in 2014 by St. Paul's, which is in, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, but it's in the Philippines. The website is www.stpauls.ph. The email for orders is wholesale@stpauls.ph. Let's see. It does say St. Paul is an apostolate of the priests and brothers of the Society of St. Paul who proclaim the gospel through the media of social communications. Sounds a lot like our Daughters of St. Paul, doesn't it? The book is dedicated to this humble work to Mama Mary. I place it and all who would read it under her mantle of love and protection. The table of contents, you're going to see, I love this table of contents. They took some thought in here how to make it clear. Look, the main titles are actually even in red. It's got the ... taking you over the page number. The print is big enough that you can read. It's very clear what the subheadings are. And if there's any further subheadings, it's all very clear. They keep indenting, right? Very lovely. It's pretty easy to see. And, you know, if you're looking, definition of terms is where you need to start in this book. Rules for deliverance of persons, deliverance session prayers. Rules for deliverance of places and objects, prayers for places and objects, angel prayers, Marian prayers, spiritual warfare prayers, supplementary consecration prayers, ancient exorcism prayers, and those are by St. John Chrysostom and St. Basil the Great, the blessing of sacramentals, like the blessing of salt, water, oil, medals of St. Benedict, and the blessing of candles, a checklist of the occult and the esoteric. Starts out with a quote from Psalms 18, 31-34 from NRSV. For who is God except the Lord, and who is a rock besides our God? The God who girded me with strength and made my way safe. He made my feet like the feet of a deer and set me up secure on the heights. He trains my hands for war so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. And then it has another quote on the inside from 1 Peter. Be sober and vigilant. Your opponent, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him, steadfast in faith, knowing that your fellow believers throughout the world undergo the same sufferings. The God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory through Christ Jesus, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you after you have suffered a little. The introduction is then another quote, this one by Pope Benedict XVI. The peace of Jesus is the fruit of a constant struggle against evil. The battle that Jesus has decided to fight is not against men or human powers, but against the enemy of God and man, Satan. And it begins, the Philippines is a country very dear to God and our Blessed Mother. We are people who are naturally religious in orientation, and this has been a great blessing to us as a people. Yet despite our faith, which is many centuries old, there seems to be some form of blockage to the blessings and graces, as well as the protection of God. Immorality and evil are rampant, and suffering and misery abound. In our office, the Archdiocese of Manilla Office of Exorcism, cases of extraordinary demonic attack are plentiful. Being a predominantly Christian country, why is this so? And you'll see this applies also to North America very much. Being a predominantly Christian country, why is this so? Of course, the cross has always been the lot of Christians before, as well as today, as we try to follow the will of the Lord in today's modern, self-centered, materialistic world. Yet the cross of the life of the Christian is always a source of peace and interior joy, as well as a means towards holiness of life. Where are the fruits of the cross in our country? The cross as the life of Jesus should be life-giving for a Christian and not a source of misery and immorality. To find the answer, we have to turn our attention to the enemy of humanity that has consistently and expertly remained hidden from view, that it would need the gift of faith, divine revelation, to discover his existence and be aware of his activities both on the personal and global level. This enemy whom God has revealed as the devil, although undetected in our society, is very much alive and entrenched in our country. Hence we see the effects of our moral and spiritual life. And then there are many quotes here again. I'm going to skip over. In our society, even though we are predominantly Catholic, not true for America, but Christian, the devil still has its strongholds, and these have contaminated our faith, making it less a source of holiness, blessings, and protections for us. Filipinos. In the Old Testament, the blessings and protection of God would be blocked also because of the contamination of the number one weapon of the devil, his false religion of paganism, animism. Christ, as stated in the Bible, in fact, came to destroy the work of the devil, idolatrous religion of paganism. Yahweh distanced himself with these Baals or false gods and was very strict with the Israelites because they were so easily allured and contaminated by them. Pagan practices, which are occultism and esotericism, were practiced side by side with Judaic rituals and rites. So this problem is ever ancient, ever new, right? When this contamination occurred, we see this many times in the Bible. The protections and blessings of God were blocked, and the Israelites would fall into slavery to a foreign power, and misery would be their lot. The unfaithfulness of Israel as a nation was centered on this. Sadly, this phenomenon is what is occurring in our country today. We hurt God so much because although we are Catholics, we continually go against the first commandment. Just a cursory look around will show that paganism, animism is not only very much alive, it has contaminated our faith. He then goes into some practices that are unique to Filipinos, but there's plenty of superstitions here. So how many Catholic businesses have a statue of Buddha, a dragon, or some other pagan god? And the statue of the child Jesus is not there for devotion, but for good luck. How many Catholics are pagan practitioners themselves? What follows are below are some of the many still existing pagan practitioners, and he goes through ones that are unique in name to the Filipino people. But I would come back to our chart. Remember, it was going to be back in the book. We had a checklist of occult and esoteric, and that is back here. Wait, I'm going to put my book ribbon where we stopped. I'm going to flip to the very back where there was that checklist of occult and esoteric. It's not all the occult practices that are around in the New Age movement and in the Filipino culture, but there's a lot. Alternative religions, amulets and talismans, animal magnetism or mesmerism, animism, paganism, astral travel or protection, astrology, automatic handwriting, spirit writing, it might be called Kabbalah, consulting a faith healer, crystal gazing and using a crystal ball, consulting spirit guides, familiar spirits, guardian spirits, and ancestral spirits, outright cults, divination using a rod and pendulum for finding water, treasure, etc. Edgar Case's teachings and readings, feng shui, fortune telling, Freemasonry, and other secret societies, geomancy, Gnosticism, heavy metal and music and death metal music, horoscopes, magic, mediumships, mind control programs like Silva Mind Control Program, necromancy, New Age books like the Gnostic Gospels, Bible codes, and the Celestine Prophecy, numerology, offering to idols and other similar rituals like food offering, animal sacrifice, and blood offering, opening the third eye, magical incantations, oracles, pacts with Satan and other deities / pagan gods, palm reading, power of the mind, psychic healing, crystal healing, faith healing, energy healing, magnetic healing, and pranic healings, psychic readings, pyramid power, readings of omens, tea leaf readings, and reading of animal body parts, Reiki, reincarnation and past life readings, Rosicruci, Santeria, Satanism, science of the mind, Scientology, seances, shamanism, sorcery, spell casting, and casting curses, example being the evil eye, spirit of the glass and spirit of the coin, spirit questing, spiritism, tarot card reading, trance channeling, transcendental meditation, use of wands, voodoo, Wicca, and witchcraft. I'm going to add to that list, centering prayer is one that's common here in America. Not cool. Let's jump in. Most Catholics are unaware of the effects of these pagan beliefs and practices, but go ahead, read the Old Testament, see how the Israelites were affected by the sin of adultery, and it should be meditated upon. The sad thing is, when our personal lives as well as society as a whole fall into all kinds of difficulties, miseries, tragedies, and immoralities, We would even tend to blame God for our lot. When paganism and the occult contaminate the faith, the relationship with God is blocked, and we can end up saying to ourselves that God is not interested in us, personally and as a nation. This is because his blessings and protection, just like with the Israelites of old, would not be able to fully enter into our lives. We are not aware of the infinite love, all the blessings, the protection of God are blocked because we are loving him with a very divided and polluted heart. I'm going to leave off there. He does continue on. You're probably dying to get in the book. The introduction does continue for a while. It's a really good self-examination of yourself, your family, your immediate social circle, your nation. It's really, really important to go in here and do a little self-examination to see how it goes. Definition of terms tells you who is an exorcist, a deliverance master, what is possession, oppression, demonic obsession, and infestation. They are different. There's different levels and categories, and there's going to be different levels of remedies and who can address them. So it's great that that's in this book. Rules for deliverance of persons. Why are the rules in here? This is not a game, friends. This is not a game. It's just so dangerous. Even Father Syquia warned us when he was a young exorcist and he would cast out the demons. He didn't initially, or I don't know if it was him personally, or he hadn't heard of this. Maybe he had heard of it from another exorcist, of not sending them somewhere. You can't just cast them out. They're going to have somewhere to go. And so he learned to always send them to, I'm not going to tell you, because you don't need to be messing around with this. There are experts for a reason. And so he's going to tell you some general rules for discernment. Whether you've decided it's possession, oppression, or obsession, there's a greater probability of the demonic if there's the presence of esoteric, occult, and sinful activities that occurred right before the onset of your problems. The existence of the following will point to the probability of extraordinary demonic harassment. So he gives you another list here of things that you might have done or other people might have done that could have brought it. It's also very interesting, he was telling us, because there are times when he went in to investigate one thing, and while he was there and in the process of him working, the real problem showed its head. So some of these other things that may happen may be affected, because it's not normally just one person affected, right? It's affecting the world around you. So what may be noticed first might be the effects you're having and not the actual possession, obsession, or whatever. It's very interesting. So the book does go into that. Some general rules for the victim. The victim is going to have some things they're going to have to do. They're going to have to cut themselves off and renounce all the things that they've been doing. Very interesting. As well as they're going to have to seek some healing themselves. You can't force this on anyone. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting because you don't get all that in the movies. There's going to be responsibilities for the people seeking the deliverance. Guidance for deliverance sessions. I mean, very clear. I'm just going to tell you, just going to pick one here. Number 7, it's on page 53. Then with a firm voice, say the deliverance prayer. Repeat them a few times with full faith and confidence. Mean every word. So very practical advice. Step by step, they're numbered out. There's even number 9 has during and in between deliverance prayers, use the following sacramentals. And it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Does it keep going? The pages are stuck. J, K, L, M, N. So stuff that you need to continually be doing. I also thought I'd note, if I hadn't before, the lovely guilt pages. Just to throw you off a little bit there. So it's not like you, even though they're numbered step by step, you can't just pick up the book and run right through them. You have to have read this ahead of time. It's something you're going to have to be practiced. You're going to have to train. Obviously, in a deliverance session, that's what's clear in here, is that you need to be trained. This is a backup aid or a study guide, but it's not the only thing. You're not just going to be able to pick it up off the street and go and do deliverance ministry. That's not how that works either. So there's a number of these. But, okay, we're the regular Joes, right? What are we going to be doing? We're probably going to be back here in the back at the spiritual warfare prayers, consecrations, Marian prayers, angel prayers. Let's see where this starts. Let's start with, the angel prayers. These are definitely something that we can do. It has quotes from St. Francis de Sales, St. John Bosco, St. Jean-Marie Vianney, St. Padre Pio of Petriclina. And then we have like the St. Michael prayer for protection. You're thinking, oh, St. Michael Archangel, defend us in battle. There are more than just that one. This was, oh, St. Michael the Archangel, enlighten us with your light, protect us with your wings, defend us with your sword. There's 3 stanzas to that one. There's also St. Michael the Archangel, help us against the evils which threaten the salvation of our souls. And that one goes on. What about this one? St. Michael, we beg that you accompany us along with all the holy angels that God has placed to guard us and assist us in our lives. Most of these have 3 stanzas. Dear St. Michael the Archangel, protect us, both body and soul, from the evil one, his followers, and anyone who would approach us with malicious intent. Another one. Prince of the heavenly host, conqueror of the dragon, you receive from God the force and power to destroy in the name of humanity the pride of the prince of darkness. You can see how many there are. Then there's to St. Gabriel for intercession, to St. Raphael for healing, guardian angel prayer, the one that you know, but there's also 2 and 3. I feel like there's more. And then prayer for protection to all the holy angels. So there's plenty of prayers in here that you may never have heard of. Lots of great quotes to inspire you. Many prayers to the Blessed Virgin Mary. You may want to know, let's see if I can find them. What are the consecration prayers? Consecration of the sick to Our Lady. And there's actually 2 of those. It says, when praying to Mama Mary for healing, we must have the heart of a child, speaking to the tenderest of mothers. It would be good to imagine how a child would approach his loving mother, his heart filled with confidence and love, and his words spontaneous and sincere. Let us emulate this in our own hearts before beginning to pray. Lovely preparation for prayer there. Spiritual warfare prayers. Does tell you here the individual prayers are used according to particular circumstances or needs that arise. It will be good to add one's own words from time to time while reciting the prayers so that they may continue to flow from one's heart and not degenerate into mere lip service. Do not also forget to use holy water whenever possible reciting these prayers. And it goes on, so it's really telling you what to do, whether and who should be praying it. Is it the victim that prays it? Do people pray it over them? It gives you just so much guidance, and the guidance is here in italics. So the name of the prayer, some guidance, and then the prayer. If there's anything you need to do, it's going to be, again, in red, even the sign of the cross. It's in red when you need to do it. So it's easy, it's clear. I'm trying to find one that has, so even just some directions. Say the black, do the red. Even if you need to put a person's name in, it's marked. The ancient exorcism prayers are there really just for you to look at. The consecration prayers. I just want to give you these quick before we go. What are the supplementary consecration prayers? It tells you praying these prayers from the heart aid tremendously in destroying any right the devil has over a person, especially those who have formed bondages with him through the occult. The important thing to keep in mind is to pray these prayers with as much sincerity as one is capable of and to trust fully that one has been heard. Prayers of consecration are one of the most effective prayers for protection from evil spirits. It is recommended that they be prayed regularly. So this is something any of us can do. There's again a quote from St. Margaret Mary Alacoque of the Sacred Heart. So there's a consecration to the 3 divine persons, active consecration to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, prayer to the Sacred Heart, consecration of the family. Are there any more? Yep. Consecration to the Blessed Virgin Mary for closing the occult third eye. This is just really lovely. If you need the exorcism or blessing of metals, these are nice to have the blessings in the back because if you need something blessed, it's very helpful to the priest to be able to just hand them the prayer that you want them to use. They've got a lot of things going on. So if you have that, it's very handy to have that just to be able to, hey, here it is. So this is a super handy book, both for private use by the general laity, as well as for those in deliverance or exorcism ministry. This book is really going to open your eyes to the dangers, I love that, the introduction is really an examination of conscience for us, and I find that's lovely. It's not detailed as being such, but it really goes into things in your life that you may not realize that you've done, but they're there. And it really helps call them out so you know how to deal with them. So I highly recommend this book. This was a full-out book review. I know I often do an unboxing. I've kind of combined my styles here. This is a book review. This is highly useful. I do absolutely recommend this. I'm going to try and put a link in the description so that you can find this as well. Although I was given it for free with the Benedicta Enrichment Seminar. So if you're going to want to find out about more opportunities like that, you're going to want to follow Women of Grace. God bless you, friends. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.